Hello there. Welcome to, what are you, like 50? The Adult Leader Training Breakout for RLS. So, my name is Rich Groezinger. I am the area director, or volunteer area director, as it were, up in northwestern Illinois. And you might be asking yourself, if you are in here, whether you are a new leader or not, you might be asking yourself, is it possible to be an effective young life leader as an adult? What I would challenge you or tell you is a resounding yes. I was introduced to Young Life at the age of 27, so I've known nothing but being an adult leader. I've now been an adult leader volunteering for nearly 20 years. So you can do this. As a matter of fact, at the first camp that I was at, we were told about a gal who woke up one morning and God had explained to her that she needed to go and to minister to high school students. There was an open campus in California, and she went onto the high school campus around lunchtime, and she would join students in their circles in the grass. When the young life leaders in the area saw her there, they began talking to her, understood from her that God had called her to do this, and then they partnered. She became a young life leader, even went to camp with them. As a matter of fact, she even did the high ropes course that summer, and she did not begin being a young life leader until she was in her 80s. So, whether you are just on the verge of adulthood, maybe you're out of college and wondering, can you still do this? Maybe you're 80 years old and wondering. The answer is yes, you can. But trying to do it on your own is foolish. So I would tell you the first thing, the most important thing that you are going to do if you want to be an adult leader in young life is you need to pray. You really need to pray. On my wall is a scripture. It says, I tell you the truth, anyone who has faith in me will do what I have been doing. He will do even greater things than these because I am going to the Father, and I will do whatever you ask in my name, so that the Son may bring glory to the Father. You may ask me for anything in my name, and I will do it. That's John 14:12 through 14, when Jesus was explaining to his disciples that he was going away, but the job was not done yet. And we will do even greater things if we ask him, and it's for his glory. So I challenge you, before you go to the school, pray. Before you go into the school, pray. Before you know which student to approach, which students to talk to, pray. Ask God to come along and show you, and he will. The next thing I want you to realize is, if you are wanting to be an adult leader, Young Life is not a ministry. Truly, Young Life is a lifestyle. One of the first scriptures that Jim Rayburn landed on for ministry is that for Young Life, it is an incarnational ministry. It is John 1:14, and the Word became flesh and dwelled among us. It is us entering the world of the high school, the life of high schoolers, and saying, this is my new lifestyle. If you're going to do that, bear in mind, it's going to change your time. It's going to change your focus. It will probably change your friendships. You will most likely hear the phrase, don't you have any friends your own age? Get used to it, but bear in mind that it is a lifestyle. That being said, you're going to need to figure out your schedule. You're going to need to sit down with a school schedule. You're going to need to sit down with your family. You're going to need to pray. You're going to have to look at your work schedule, and you're going to have to be realistic, but make it a priority. Schedule it out. Work out your time so you can do multiple things. There are times where, if I'm working with multiple schools, I make it to every sporting event where one school is competing against another, because then I can watch students from both schools at the same time and encourage them both after the game. But as an adult with all these other responsibilities, you really need to work on your time management. So I encourage you to do so. The next thing is, you need to set boundaries. Because it is a lifestyle, and Jesus even took his own disciples after they had gone and ministered and said, come away with me and rest. You need time in the scriptures with yourself and the Lord alone. You also, if you have a spouse, if you have a significant other, I encourage you to set up what I call a Rich and Amy night. My name is Rich. My wife's name is Amy. And we discovered early on that this ministry takes time. Quite honestly, before COVID hit, I'm generally at the high school about 4 times a week. And what do I do the other day? I'm with my wife. It is Rich and Amy night. No Young Life takes place on Rich and Amy night. Our kids are pretty much ignored on Rich and Amy night, to be honest. They've known that since they were little. We'll feed them, but they take care of themselves, and that is our night. We don't necessarily always go somewhere. We spend time together, but it is like a Sabbath for our marriage that is not impacted by the ministry of Young Life or any ministry that you're involved in for that matter. If you are going to try to be an adult and minister in this way, I highly suggest setting up a Rich and Amy night. The next thing is I would say be yourself. High school students can sniff out fakes so easily. Don't try to be someone that you're not. If you're a square, embrace it. If you are a wannabe jock, embrace it. But be willing and understood that you will be humbled because the older you get, everything you do will cause more and more pain. But just be yourself. Don't try to be someone that you're not. The next thing I would say is, as an adult leader, get to know your youth culture. You'll see through different things in Young Life or any youth ministry, all these things to really get to know your youth culture. And there's some benefit in that. But if you spend all your time, meaning you are on Instagram, you are on TikTok, you are on Snapchat and Twitter and Facebook, you are spending all this time in the music and in the videos and on YouTube, you will cease to spend time with your students and you will know very little about your youth culture. What I mean by your youth culture is, what is the culture at your high school? It's not going to be the same across the board. As a matter of fact, I have never used Instagram. I have never used Twitter. I do not use Facebook. I only use Snapchat. Do our students in our area use more than that? Some, but the focus for them is on Snapchat, and that's where my focus is. I don't have time to spend on all the social medias. I suggest that you don't either. Pick one, pick two, find out. But really what it comes down to is, what does someone like to talk about more than anything else in the world? Themselves. So when you spend time with students, ask them, what music do you listen to? How do you talk to your friends? What social media do you invest in? What are you a Netflix person? Are you an Amazon person? Do you use Hulu? Get to know your youth culture at your school and then invest in that. Otherwise, you'll overwhelm yourself with things that you'll never be able to do. The next thing I would suggest is don't show favoritism. There are very few things in Young Life training that I have been taught that I disagree with. One was, however, to get to know the students that are the influencers and spend time getting to know them so that they could influence the other students. Given the right heart, I can understand that premise, but the scripture is so clear that one, that God did not choose those of us that are great leaders, those that have great skills and so forth to be his followers, but he chose the others. And in James 2:1, he explains and challenges us to not show favoritism, not to those that are dressed better or are rich. Instead, I would say, pray, go to the school and get to know the students. You may very well find out. I went into a school at one point and I thought, sure, I was going to get to know the jocks, That was who I was in school, so that was what I was going to do. But as I prayed, who did God give me? He gave me the show choir boys. So for 4 years, I walked through. I saw more jazz ensembles and show choir shows and plays than you could imagine. But you know what? Those were some great relationships and some guys that gave their lives to Christ because I listened and because I followed where God would have me go. So don't show favoritism. Love each student the same. That's how Christ loves us. I challenge you that. The next thing is, you're older now. The student section might not be for you. When I was 27 years old and started in Young Life, I was in the student section. At the most recent school, when I started into the student section in my 40s, people started asking questions. Who's the creepy old guy in the stands? You know what? If that's what is being said about you, find a different spot. But my challenge is be consistent. What I do, I choose the spot right near the student section. And if I need to pop over to have a quick conversation, I'm there. and I pop right back. Students know I'm there because every game that I'm at, I'm in the same spot. And so I have students, generally speaking, the students that don't come to club or campaigners, they're the ones that come talk to me at the games because they know I'll be there. And if they want someone to talk to, that's where I'm going to be. So I challenge you, just be consistent, but keep an ear out because the student section might not be for you. But pick a spot nearby and just be available. The next thing I would suggest is, as an adult, check in on your staff. Unless your staff person is Scott or Buck, who both, make me look young, I would suggest check in on them. Many of them are young. They could use encouragement. They could use some adult perspective. That's something that you can give. They'll challenge you and encourage you as well, but check in on them. And finally, as an adult leader, don't take things so personally. You know what? Chances are you will get stood up. You will get made fun of. You will get ignored. You will walk away from the school thinking these are some of the worst times I've ever had. You might walk away from club feeling that way. But you know what? You are Christ's ambassador. And if he was hated, we're going to be hated. But also bear in mind that, generally speaking, people do things for a reason. And so my challenge to you would be, don't take it so personally. Maybe you'll get to understand why you were stood up. You might not. But roll with it. But all in all, you can be an effective young life leader as an adult. Just pray. Ask God to move with you. If you have any questions, concerns, certainly we haven't answered everything here, send me an email. Shoot me a text. I would be happy to talk with you. And just love students and introduce them to Christ. That's the premise. All right, thanks. Bye.